No. All right. I'm gonna trade you 2 sheep for that wood. Tell me, honey, does that sound good? 'Cause all I really wanna do is take away longest road from you, yeah. Welcome to these tabletop sessions. Welcome to these tabletop sessions. Hello, fellow gregarious geeks and gamers, and welcome to the 45th episode of the Tabletop Sessions podcast. This is your monthly dose of tabletop gaming stories and shenanigans. My name is Elias, and with me today, it's the host that plays with my heart the most, Ippokratic.
Hello, board game addicts.
That was from last week. The robot was from last month. We're done with the robot.
I didn't do the robot. I said hello, board game addicts.
Oh, that's just your voice. You just sound
I'm becoming a machine.
So monotone that I mistook you for a robot from the 80s. And you know, this introduction, the host that plays with my heart the most, it wouldn't have worked when Demo was still on the podcast. So, you know.
I see what you did there.
Some of the benefits from having only 2 hosts nowadays.
But I was thinking, if I was becoming a machine, that would have been a great story for a movie or something. Like a human.
Sure.
As you grow up, you become a machine. Never seen that story.
That we should write it.
Right?
I'm done. I'll get together a little skeleton framework for it, and we can break it down on Storysmiths. Okay.
Exactly. You can take it to the other podcast. Yeah.
Have you been? Have you been playing anything exciting, interesting, fun? Doing anything board game related that our listeners might want to know about?
Yes, but our listeners want to know that I'm playing basically only Blood on the Clock Tower.
Oh my god!
Because now we have like a great group, a lot of people that want to join, and they're more excited every time. And now we're trying new scenarios, and we have dedicated storytellers, and so things are going very well for social deduction lovers. I was in an evil stream where I was playing the evil guys for 4 games in a row, and it's like stressing. It's stressful to play the evil team all the time. So anyway, I loved playing the game, and I loved playing the second scenario, the Blood Night. What's the name? What's Blood? Oh, fuck. I don't remember the name. Trouble Brewer is the first one. And the third scenario that we're going to try this Thursday is Sects and Violets. So my little girl, my daughter, she said to me, "Oh, Dad, I want to play the third scenario, which is Sex and Violence." And I heard Sex and Violence.
Yeah, I think that's what it's supposed to be playing off of.
And I was thinking, what did you say? She said, Sects and Violets. I said, okay. Yeah, you can play that. So we're gonna play this.
I'm so happy for you and your little party game group. You know, it must be.
And it's
you're
okay,
turning it. The longer I leave you, the more you turn into just like a a party gamer. You're just losing everything that made you, Ippokratic.
That's true. That's very true.
I need to visit you this summer to set things straight in your mind. I'll bring a copy of Pericles.
Oh, yes. We used to play, the light games on Tuesdays and then heavier games on Fridays. Basically, not even that. I mean, last year, this last February, we were playing like Tuesdays Hegemony and Fridays even heavier games. And now we play light games on Tuesdays and Blood on the Clock Tower on Fridays. So, yes, there is a turn.
Sorry, maybe it's your Hegemony and party game group. I apologize for. Speaking of, I might be playing Hegemony this weekend, actually.
Is it your first time?
Yeah, we have a game scheduled for this Sunday. So hopefully...
Is everybody's first time?
It will be everybody's first time. Yes.
4 players?
4 players. That's the plan. I don't know if it's going to happen, but
Okay.
that's the plan. So there you go.
I was just gonna say, if you play the middle class, it's like the most difficult to play to handle for the first time, for the first timers, because you need to combine strategies from both the working class and the capitalists.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
So I'll
So
probably
be
play
patient,
that because I enjoy playing the more
Because you are the
difficult
middle class.
factions. No, hey! How hard could it be if I'm just playing me? Yeah, it's. I'll let you know if we do. I don't think I'll do like a review because you've talked about it so much on this podcast, but we can talk about a little bit my experiences with it. So
You can do a sessions review, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So what did you play?
playing a lot of Gloomhaven as usual with my weekly Gloomhaven
Do you mean
session.
Frosthaven?
No, I mean Gloomhaven. So I play with Dima, I play Frosthaven, and with Mo, I play Gloomhaven. So yeah, I have 2
online.
campaigns on the app, on the game version, on Epic
Okay.
Game Store. So both Mo. So I have 2 campaigns going on at the same time, Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, and that's been a lot of fun. But I've talked
Is
enough
it good
about
online?
those. It is, yeah, but I think you're served a lot by having played the game in real life. So like
Yeah.
Mo doesn't
It's
really
always like that.
instinctively understand like who they're going to attack if 2 people are equidistant from an enemy. He doesn't instinctively understand that like range, if you're adjacent to them, leads to disadvantage. He doesn't instinctively understand like different conditions. So it's just once you play it a few times in real life, that just becomes like second nature. So when you play it online, you don't have to think too much about it. So yeah. And also,
True for every game, I guess.
after speaking of Mo, after the last experience of Cryptid, in which he broke the game twice in a row by being lucky, I guess, I basically put it on my trade list, and somebody reached out to me and asked if I would like to trade it. So I'm going to be trading that. He might be passing by today. And I'm going to be trading it for Black Sonata, which is like a solo game with deduction set in like Shakespeare's London. And I'm excited to try that one and report back on it. So look out for Black Sonata coming up soon.
Black Sonata is in my watch list. I wanted to play it in my wish list maybe.
Yeah.
And I wanted to play it, and
because if it was on your watch list, you can just watch me play it.
Yeah. That could be good. Yeah. Are you gonna make a video or something?
Not a bad idea. It's
Yeah.
simple enough that I could. All right, let's do that. Let's do that. All right.
I would love to watch that.
Cool.
And we played Cryptid last week like 3 times in a row. People were playing it for the first time and they loved the game.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think that if I had Zendo, everybody would be in love with that game. So I searched in Amazon UAE, and they have Zendo.
Amazing.
Or
Did you buy
something
it?
like. No, because they wouldn't ship it to Qatar for some reason.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't know why. I mean, we're so close. I'm waiting for somebody to go to Dubai from Qatar, and then I will order the game and ship it to his hotel, maybe? Can I do that? I guess I can. I guess I can.
It's okay, though. Don't worry. Everything's fine. I already have it, so everything's fine. Don't panic, okay? But I do
So
want to
if I come
get
to Canada, we can play.
Yeah, maybe. It's a little expensive, more expensive than buying it from Amazon UAE. I want to get those like extra like rules packs. So there's like that deck of rules that you can use. There's a few like packs you can get to add to the game. I'm wanting to pick those up, but they're out of stock everywhere all the time. So yeah.
Why is it out of stock? I mean, do they have like a good publisher or like a?
I think it's Looney Labs, so it's a pretty small publisher.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
speaking
what did you
of
play? Yeah.
games other than Gloomhaven that I've been playing, we recently, with my friends Matt and Chris, we went over to their place to Matt's place, and we played a game that I had my eye on just because of the theme. I didn't know much about the game, but it just seemed like such an interesting theme. And that game was My Father's Work by T.C. Petty III, Renegade Game Studios, published in 2022.
Oh
T.C.
my. Okay,
T.C.
so many
Petty
questions.
III has a game uh, has a game I've always wanted to play called Xenon Profiteer, which is a game like it's like a reverse deck builder. So like when you're playing deck building games, you get like you get all these good cards, but then you want to increase the frequency of getting those cards. So you spend time getting rid of the shittier cards in your hand. So your
Yeah,
deck is
yeah,
more
like
efficient.
deck building,
Yeah, well,
classic deck building.
yeah. So in Xenon Profiteer, you start with like a bunch of stuff in your hand, and you're purifying it so that it's just Xenon, right? And then you're selling that Xenon. So the purer you can get it, the more points you can score. So it's just built on that mechanic. I think that's really cool. Anyway, not really the point. T.C. Petty the
But
Third also
but it's
made this. Yeah,
okay. Wait. TC Petty the third. Okay, who is called the third? What
I
is
mean,
this? What name is
the
it?
third is
I
probably
mean,
the
only
son of
kings.
the second.
Only kings. I have like I know that they were the third. Okay, I know Junior. Maybe okay, Elias Junior.
Yeah,
You
Junior
can
is the
do that.
second, and then Junior is the third.
But the third. I mean, what is this?
I
My God.
recently was watching a basketball game, and a player on the 76ers who I'd never seen before, they got a bunch of injuries, so they're going deep into their bench. One player comes out, and on his back it says, Council Live. And I was like, what's Council Live? What's Council Live? And then I realized it was Council the Fourth. The name on the back of his jersey is Council the Fourth in Roman numerals. And I was like, that's a fire name. Anyway, so TC published this game, which is the point of today, My Father's Work. And the basic idea of it, thematically.
Oh yeah. So he's the third, and he's the name of his game is My Father's Work. So TC Petty the second.
Exactly, yes.
So TC Petty the second's work is the
Yes, that's the name of the game. And his child is TC Petiev. That's the name of his child.
TC Petty.
Anyway, can I please talk about this game? For the love of God.
No. I think this is more important. I think I see some like father-son issues in this. Like, anyway, okay, yeah. Talk about the game.
I mean, when you give your name to your child, you're sort of putting a lot of sort of expectation or sort of like it's even more than dictating what they do for a living. It's dictating who they are, like what their name is. So perhaps this is the onus and the core of the theme, which is about Victorian era. They say like alchemists, but it's more just like rich people in the Victorian era who, as a hobby, become mad scientists. You know how it was back then.
Yeah.
When you had money, you would just dabble in mad science. That's kind of the nature of being rich. And what you're trying to do is you're competing to complete your late father's mysterious and ambitious work. What it actually is you're playing the game over 3 generations. And each generation has basically 3 rounds.
Okay, I cannot help it. Are you really playing the game over 3 generations? And you anticipated. Okay, come on. Do you see a pattern now?
Yes, I do. I didn't realize this. But the first generation, so the way it's laid out, the first generation is called TC Petty. The second generation is called TC Petty the second.
So basically, it's 3 rounds, I guess.
No, it's 3 like not rounds, 3 like generations. Each generation is 3 rounds. So each generation is like early years, middle years, late years, and basically, the first generation you're kind of like you're the father of this mad science family, and then you're that person's child, and then that person's child, and you're trying to accomplish something as a family. You have some sort of obsession. Like when I played, it was a love potion. I wanted to create a love potion to control the minds of weaker-willed individuals. But yeah, you're playing the game through worker placement, resource management. That's kind of the core of it. You're gathering resources, learning knowledge, conducting experiments, and so on. And you have different kinds of workers. So there's you, TC Petty, the first, second, or third. Then there is your spouse, and then slash servants, which is interesting discussion topic, I think. But basically, you have like a servant type miniature, and one of them is your spouse, which can do a little bit more than the other servants, but it's a servant miniature. We can talk about that in its own discussion topic. And then
Oh
you
my
have
god,
like,
there's so many things to talk about in this game. Okay, it's Victorian era. I guess it makes sense.
and then you have like a groundskeeper, like Igor sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is the different
Igor.
kinds of workers can do different things. So like you can go anywhere, but your groundskeeper can only do things in your manor. Like he can't go to the village because he has a grotesque hump and people throw things at him the whole time. And your spouse or servant, they can only do things in the village because if they find out what you're doing in the manor, you can use them, but then they'll leave you. So you can, yeah.
Also, the spouse doesn't know what I'm doing, which makes sense, I guess.
No, they're just being servants as it's meant to be. But at least you can switch bases between male, female, whatever gender miniatures. So your spouse could be a dude. So it's not sexist, I guess, just spousist. Let's call it that. So
Okay, yes.
yeah. So you're going around, you're collecting resources, things, dead bodies from the graveyard, animals from the butcher, stuff like that. And then chemicals.
So that's the worker placement part, I understand.
Yeah, exactly. And on your board, there's
Okay.
worker placement as well, where you're like turning certain things into knowledge. And then the more knowledge you have, the less stuff you need to do the higher level cards, because there's like multiple level cards. And the way it works is, so there's level A, B, C, and then your main one, your family goal, is a level D. And you can do an A anytime, but you need at least an A to do a B. And then you need at least 2 Bs to do a C. And then you need at least 3 Cs to do a D. So it's like it gets increasingly more difficult. So yeah, the point of all this is you're getting all these things, you're doing these experiments, increasing your knowledge and so on. And another thing that's in the game is app driven. So there are these like moral dilemmas that come into play during the game. So there's story elements happening. You put in your names and it's like a letter from Dima. And she's like, these pathetic peasants, you know what it means, and stuff like that. The game itself comes with 3 scenarios, but each one has multiple pathways. So you can play it multiple times. It's not like what's going to happen every time you play it. But you get these moral dilemmas, which are driven by the app, and you have these like yes, no, vote token. Sometimes you pass the iPad and you pick something. So, for example, one of us was able to curse the village in the scenario that we're playing, but we didn't know which one of us it was. So we just kind of had a thing where they were like, pick one place to curse, and then you go around and you curse that place, and all 4 of us picked the church because theme. I don't know why, but yeah, there's elements of that in the game, and sometimes it can be funny. It can be like, why do we all pick the church? I don't know. Maybe we all have religious trauma. But at the end of the day, that was kind of the only reason we all picked the church, because we didn't even realize what would happen once we cursed it, which is like that action wasn't available for that round. So, there's different elements, story-driven stuff. It's not always the best about telling you what the impacts of your choices are going to be. And like I said, you play 3 generations. But what's cool about it is at the end of every generation, you can leave one thing for your next generation to start off with. Plus, every building expansion you add to your manor stays, and each building expansion adds an element. So this building expansion might say, get 2 extra servants. This one might say, start with this much money, whatever it is. Your next generation starts off a little bit better than the generation previous, because they have more buildings.
Inherit basically your
Yes.
your stuff.
Plus one secret knowledge thing. So one of the experiments that you did, usually the most difficult level one, right? So like a level C or whatever, and you can store that, and then that will count towards their count of how many A's, how many B's, how many C's that you have in the next generation. Because every generation, other than those two things, you're starting from scratch. So you start with, the same setup.
And I guess every generation score points, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, it's total points, exactly. So the points just keep adding. There's a track around it. It's a Euro game, and yeah, and one of the fun things about this game is have you ever watched Young Frankenstein, the Mel Brooks movie?
I'm not sure. Maybe long ago.
I love that movie. And basically, this movie is just Young Frankenstein. And so everybody sitting around the table is just constantly making jokes like, actually, it's Igor, or Frankenstein, roll in the hay, or, the old classic werewolf, their wolf, their castle.
Okay, but that was your friends, not the game itself.
Yeah,
right?
but that's the theme. If you like Young Frankenstein, this game's theme is Young Frankenstein. Even the experiments are funny. Like the first experiment I did was I put a clock in the chest of a fruit bat. You know what I mean? Like, it's
now I got you. Yeah.
yeah. So let me just talk a little bit about how I felt about the game. Things I didn't like, because I want to get them out of the way. Because spoiler, I really like the game. One thing was it can have a little take that element to it, very little, but like, for example, there was a private decision where Chris had to pick something on the because he was in last place on the iPad, and it basically was like, put this token on the score track, and when you reach it, something happens, but only Chris knows what that is. And I was really far ahead of everyone at that point, so it was definitely going to be me. And it was like -3 points. And I don't like that. I don't like when a game, I wish that element was not in the game, to be honest with you. And sometimes the app is more trouble than it's worth. So the story elements are great. The voting stuff is great. I wouldn't say that's what makes the game. I think the game is solid. I think the app is kind of extraneous to it. And I think that moments like, for example, at one point we forgot to click something when we had finished a round or something like that. And then when we realized that, we had to undo a bunch of things and go back and click it and work our way back to it, because like so many things change every time you click a button. So like, it can be frustrating sometimes more than anything.
Do you think the app could be replaced by a deck of cards or several deck of cards or something?
Not to do the same thing, but yes, it could have been designed that way, but it's not. Like the app will track things. So like that one I gave you an example of where we were cursing places, that happened over multiple rounds. And the idea is that at some point it tells you, at this point, like, you got to vote who you think is the one that's actually cursing everything. And then based on where it got cursed, you have to try to figure out through deduction which one it was. But there was no way we kept track of that. Like the app kept track of all that and did all that. So, I think there are elements that were built in specifically for the app, but I didn't find those elements to be the reason the game was good. Actually, I found it to be the app was a little tedious, and the writing on the app was long-winded. Like, just sometimes just shut the fuck up. Like, come on, like, just like, you could write half the words and we would be in the same, like, so it got a little sort of
They were trying to be thematic, I guess, and get the atmosphere right.
But in the end, some of it just ends up sounding like you're far up your own asshole. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of, yeah. But there's a lot of value to it. I wasn't crazy about the app, not because it's an app. I have no problem with apps and games. Just, I just feel like it could have been streamlined a bit better instead of sort of being a hindrance to the game. Now the things that I love, one, just the standard edition of the game is what we played, and it is fucking gorgeous. Like, all the pieces are beautiful, double layered boards and beautiful little things. My friend Chris souped it up a little bit. Like, the potions were little glass vials with cork. That's how it came. So he like poured colored, epoxy or acrylic or something in them, so they looked like they were filled with different fluids and stuff like that. But that's not.
Wow.
But the fact the game came with glass bottles and corks, and so and little metal pieces and gorgeous, double-sided boards. The miniatures I could have done without. I don't think they were necessary, but there aren't like a ton in the game. And overall, really excellent, and really excellent graphic design as well. You can look at something and immediately understand what it is. I think they did a great job. Beautiful art, top-notch production. Hats off. I really also like the generational thing, because when you start the next generation, it can feel a little bit like you're starting all over again, and you're doing that 3 times. But those little things that you get from the manor expansions and like the card that's left over, it really helps, especially by the 3rd generation. You're in a much better position when you start than that 1st generation, but it gives you enough of a challenge. Whereas if you kept everything, there wouldn't be much of a challenge. They would have to really push the difficulty level by the 3rd one. It would be like when we played QE, and like we started off with $500 bids and ended up in 15 trillion. You know what I mean? Like it would be like so far beyond what the first one was doing. I like the thematic element of every generation struggling the same way, but just a little better off. It was really good, and it felt good too in terms of gameplay. But the most important thing, the reason I like the game, and I'm planning to play it with Byron on Tabletop Simulator maybe next week, is the gameplay is so engaging, and it has an awesome decision-making space. Just to give you an example of it. So there is a place on your manor where it's kind of like a manor affairs box, and all it does is give you a couple coins, and the only real reason to go there is if you desperately need money, but usually there's a better place to make money somehow. So the only real reason to go there is if you don't want to go anywhere else. That's kind of the point of it. And there is something I forgot to say, but if a space is already taken by a worker, the one on the village, your manor is your own. But if another worker takes a village spot, you can still go there. You just have to pay a little bit of money to the bank. So you're never fully blocked out. So you can always get what you want. It just becomes more expensive. So the only reason you would ever go to the one on your board that gives you a couple of coins is if you just don't really have anything to do. And like in the entire game, I don't think anyone used it. Maybe one time when a person realized he was out of the game and he fucked up and he didn't have a chance to get that last project he was planning on. That's the only time I can think of somebody used it. Other than that, every action was precious, and I think that's usually a sign of a good worker placement game. I really like that you're never fully blocked out, but it costs you more. And that can be a huge impact how much it costs you. And it makes turn order matter. But you can never say, I can't accomplish this. There's also multiple ways to accomplish things. Like there's a wild knowledge, which is like the occult, and that can be used to replace any knowledge you're lacking in like biology or chemistry or engineering. So like there's flexibility. There's different ways to get to the same point. And then the last thing I would maybe criticize about the game is it's a little long for what it is. But I do think
you played 4 players?
Full count, 4 players. But I do think that it's a touch long, but I'm going to be honest with you. That ties into my criticism of the app. I think without the app, the game is an hour shorter at minimum.
What?
Yeah. Like, I don't feel like it made the game more run smoother. I feel like it just added a bunch of extra stuff to the game, which is great, but not why the game is good. So I would have redesigned that, or made it a little less intrusive, or just replaced it with cards or something. So yeah.
I'm seeing now Board Game Geek. It says it's best with 3, and it's a 3 hours game.
Yeah. So for us, it was like 4 hours with 4 players. So.
How are you gonna play it online with Byron? I mean, the app.
There's a tabletop simulator where the app is on an iPad on the table.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Wow.
I haven't tried fantastic. It, but yeah, he wants to play it, and I know how to play it. So yeah, my overall thoughts on my father's work. This is clearly T.C. Petty the third putting his own like generational trauma into a game form, and we need to have an interview with him to discuss that. But I think it's a great theme. It's funny sometimes. It's immersive. I love the gameplay. I love the decision space, and I really enjoy the generational thing and the fact that you feel like there's a challenge every single generation, but you're a little better off, so you can accomplish a little more than your parents. And I really like that. My main negative, really, at the end of the day, wish there wasn't that little take that element. And I think the app could be made to streamline the game rather than add time to the game. And that's what I think. And overall, big recommend for me, like to the point that I would say, if if I'm no longer in Toronto or Chris sells the game or something, I'd pick up a copy. Like I liked it. I do think it could do with an expansion with more scenarios. But like, it's not like we play games thousands of times. So like three scenarios with multiple paths will last you, I don't know, 6 to 9 games. So that's pretty good. But it would be nice to have like little optional packs to pick up, just like the one pack, and then you pick it up and you're like, oh, now I have this new scenario I can play. But recommend if you get a chance to try it. My father's work, really good.
I want to say I was watching the pictures from Board Game Geek all this time, and it looks fantastic.
It is.
I mean,
It's beautiful.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like so many details. And is there a deluxe edition maybe? Or
I don't know. He
I'm
just said he bought
I
the
don't know if I'm
regular.
looking at regular pictures or.
He said he bought the regular edition, but like those coffins are the same. They look like coffins. All the animals are different. The little glass bottles are there. So like, I don't know,
So
man.
just an excellent
Yeah, just an excellent production. So
production.
yeah, they did a great job, really, with that, and great job with the design. Overall, like, very little negative to say about it. I feel like the negatives just derive from maybe wanting to do a bit too much, and overall, we all do that a little bit. Like, when I write, there are things that I could leave out that would probably make the story better, but I don't because I want them in there because they're cool. You know what I mean? And even though people
Yeah.
tell me you could probably do without this, I keep them in there. I feel like that's what the app and the take that element are. They're just
Yeah.
a little
This
extra that maybe don't need to be there. But hey, he made a great game, so I'm not going to complain to
the,
him for the little extra stuff. So
and they say the same about game design. That
yeah, it's
sometimes the
true. Yeah.
things you love the most are the things you need to leave out of the game.
As a designer,
Anyway,
you
okay.
would know exactly. So, as a
I mean,
designer of many unpublished games,
thank you. Exactly. Yes. So actually, yeah, I would like to play that game now. I'm the f- Your father's work. I think I have seen it in a Tuesday night, my board game night. Board game group. But I'm not sure about it. Anyway, so basically, as I was saying before, all this time I was playing these social deduction games and Avalon and Secret Hitler and Blood on the Clock Tower. But at some point, I have told my friend Zif that I need to play Concordia Venus because I got Concordia like 5 years ago, no less, maybe 4 years ago, and I really played it a lot and I enjoyed it a lot, and everybody that played with me enjoyed the game. And as I said before, one of the greatest thing about this game is that you can teach it in 10 to 15 minutes and people can start playing. So it's really engaging and easy to put it on the table. So Concordia came out in 2013. It's a game by Mac Gertz, which is his name, and not Mark Gertz, as I thought for the last 10 years. It's Mac Gertz. Okay, anyway. So it's a 2 to 5 players trading game in the Roman Mediterranean Sea, in Mare Nostrum, as we were saying at that time. And you were trying to do by selling and producing resources. You're trying to go for efficiency and victory points. You can check the listeners' episode 21 for our review on the game. But basically, it's a deck building game with point-to-point movement, resource management, and it sits right now on number 23 of Board Game Geek's top games of all time. So it's a very popular game also.
Mm-hmm.
Concordia Venus now, this edition came out in 2018 and it's a 2 to 6 player version where you can team up with a partner against other pairs. So that's the basic difference that brings to the table. And I remember seeing this large booth at Essen 2017 when we went together. Mm-hmm. With a lot of people playing Concordia Venus, but at that time I didn't know what's Concordia. So I was really impressed with all these people playing in this huge booth of a game that I don't know, and they were very focused on the game. And I remember seeing the map, but didn't tell me anything. Anyway, so now I understand what was the excitement about, because imagine you are playing your favorite resource management game, and then it comes out and now you can play it as pairs. You can play it with a partner.
Teams,
and,
yeah.
For me,
that's why I've always been more interested in Venus than the normal one, because there's so few games that have teams, like especially Euro games like that.
For me, as a former bridge player, I really appreciate team games, right? Like, I feel they make the difference. I don't know. Also, have we had played other two-player? No, team games we have played, but two-player teams.
Yeah, War of the Ring and Rebellion. It's kind of the reason I only like to play War of the Ring 4 players. Is it's supposed to be better one-on-one, but I really like having a teammate. You know, like so we can talk. And,
that's the whole point.
Yeah, and I don't want to sit there in silence the entire time. Pericles is like teammates who hate each other, but yes,
exactly. It's not really. Yeah, you need to backstab your partner in the end, so it's not the best.
It's part of the game design.
Game. So this game, you can even play 3 teams of 2 players. So we played it 6 players, and for sure, I was thinking that there's no way you can play a game like Concordia with 6 players, because you have a lot of doing your turn and, waiting till the round comes back to you. It's going to take forever. But the game really works, and it really works because the designer made this great thing where the partners are playing at the same turn. So if it's my turn, I decide what is the action, but both of the partners are doing the action. And we are sitting opposite to each other. So basically every 3 rounds, it's your turn to play again. So that makes the players really engaging. It's actually, you're playing even more than if you play a regular 4-player Concordia game. And this was fantastic. I mean, I have never seen this before. And really, the game is now fast enough and enjoyable, even with 6 players. I think in the Board Game Geek, if you search, you see that most people are proposing to play a 4-player game. I have not played a 4-player game. But I think from now on, I will certainly prefer Concordia Venus over the plain Concordia game, because, as I said, I love 2 versus 2s, and this gives me also the opportunity to play with 6 players, so it's a yes for me.
That's very interesting, because I think most people ended up sort of saying that Venus is fine, it's a nice map, whatever, but I think most people ended up on the team game is not the best version of Concordia, which kind of put me off of it, because that was the only reason I kind of wanted to play Concordia Venus, because Concordia is a fine game. It's a very solid game, good game, I would say. It's never on my mind to play. It's just so like generic, bland. Just it will hit the table enough without me asking for it, and I never really feel like playing it. So I kind of was excited about the team element to maybe add some spice to it. And most of the reviews were like, "Yeah, the team element's not really the better game." So I kind of shied away from it. But now, hearing you say it, I trust you more than other people on the internet who are almost always wrong. So it's nice to hear that.
Okay.
Maybe I'll make more of an
Actually,
effort. Yeah.
I'm gonna justify why they think like that, because if you have played a lot of Concordia and you have you know exactly what you need to do next turn when you play alone. Now with the two player, you think it's just an obstacle to your plans, but if you play it just once, you're not gonna realize that it gives a new dimension to your strategy. So in the first turns, it's pretty obvious what you need to do with your partner, but as the game progresses, there are certain actions that you need to do that are great for you, but are really useless to your partner. And in our 6-player game, because 3 of the players were there, it was their first time playing Concordia, so I'm sure they couldn't see this dimension. They were just trying to do whatever it was the best for them. And even myself, I was struggling to understand, okay, now I have a ton of resources that I need to spend in order to make new trading posts. And I need to play the action that makes new trading posts. But my partner has nothing. So for my partner, it would be best if I make a production action. But my warehouse is full. So for me, it's completely useless to make a new production action. So because we were playing with new players, we didn't overthink it. But I see that it's very interesting going on this path.
Great.
So yes, this was Concordia Venus.
Very interesting. I think that's great because I don't know, that makes me want to play it more. That makes me want to play it again. It sort of goes up on my interest list again because I remember it was on my wish list, and when I saw that feedback, I put it away, and I can understand that. But like, I'm not a person who's like, oh, well, we weren't equal in capability and skills, so I didn't have a great game. It's okay if I didn't do well. Like, so I kind of love the idea of working towards something with someone. But I hate co-op games because I don't like when everyone around the table is telling you what to do. But you sharing ideas with a teammate is different. So maybe two-player co-op games. Maybe that's the way. Maybe I've been playing co-op games with too many people. That's the problem. But yeah.
You're playing with the wrong people.
Yeah, maybe it sounds less bossy when it's just two people. Excellent. So thank you for that. I've been playing I got a GMT P500 order, came in. It's called Vijayanagara, the Deccan Empires of Medieval India. And I backed it like, I don't know, a year ago on P500. And it came, I guess I'm one of the first ones to get it because as of now, as of my geekgroup.app website thing, which gives you like insights on your collection, there's only 58 copies owned on BGG at the moment. So it's one of my rarer games, this one in Yakitori. But I know for a fact that they had like 1,000 orders on GMT. So I don't think that's for too long. I think that's just
they just didn't ship yet.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I got it first. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so the
Did you know anything about the historical background of this game? Why did you order this?
Great question. So I always go through the GMT P500 because I like to see what topics they have. And this game is the first game in their Irregular Conflict series, which is using the coin system, but not like a 4-player coin game like the usual standard coin games. So it's when they deviate from the coin games, they become ICS games. So I love coin games. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. But I also listened to a podcast episode, Fall of Civilizations, where the guy talked about the Vijayanagara Empire. and it just happened to be around that time, and I saw it. I saw it was coin related, and I was like, that was such an interesting thing. I'm tired of all games involving India being like colonization of India. So I was like, let me have some more diversity.
Fuck the British. We can say it, I guess.
Yeah, I know, like, yeah, like I love that the Great Zimbabwe.
I mean the British Empire, not the British people, the British Empire, right? Okay.
So I love that, like, the Great Zimbabwe, even though it's not very thematic, I love that it's about a civilization that like isn't
Not very thematic.
Isn't regularly.
It's not thematic at all. Like it could have been with penguins,
but it'll make
going
people
around.
It'll make people
Antarctica.
Google the Great Zimbabwe, and they'll read about the city of the Great Zimbabwe.
True. That's very true. Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think I like to represent more than just European perspectives in terms of history. And there's a billion Rome games, a billion Greek games, a billion British Empire games, but how many Indian Empire struggle games are there? And I found this fascinating, and I would like more of that stuff, please. Like, I was looking for a game sort of set in like basically the Middle East, or earlier in the Middle East, but not like Sumeria, like, like early 20th century, late 19th century. And the only thing I could find is like British involvement in like mandatory Palestine and stuff like that. Like it's like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, what about giving me something that isn't about, the European perspective? But yes, that's also an interesting thing I find for games like the Navajo Wars or Comanche or games like that. So I like these perspectives that are showing, variable perspectives. So this one had that. I love the podcast episode. Great podcast. If you don't listen to it, Fall of Civilization. And it was a coin-based system, ICS, the first of the ICS system. So I was like, great. I backed it. It's designed by...
So what is ICS?
Irregular Conflict Series. So they're like coin, but different. Like, if they don't perfectly fit into that coin system, they are part of the ICS system. I think that's how they're going about doing it.
So like the Afghanistan terrorist thing, was it?
That's
ICS?
coin. That's a coin. Which one? Sorry.
Okay.
Which
the
Afghanistan?
Fire in the Lake, I think.
That's a Vietnam game.
Oh, which one is the Afghanistan?
A Distant Plain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that. Distant Fire in the Lake, which is Vietnam, Distant Plain, which is Afghanistan, Cuba Libre in Cuba, and so on. And then they also have their ancient coin series. So you have like Falling Sky and Pendragon, but then this is like stuff that doesn't fit that mold, and it kind of becomes this ICS system. It's made by a design team that hasn't designed anything else. Corey Graham, Matthew Johnson, Aman Matthews, and Saverio Spagnoli. And I looked online and I can't see anything else that they designed on BGG. So that was a bit of a red flag, but it was GMT. I bought it. Came out this year, 2024.
Or maybe it's a green flag. Maybe they are all historians.
Perhaps. So let me jump into the game. So the game started. The concept of the game is there's three factions. There's the Delhi Sultanate, the Bahmani Kingdom, and the Vijayanagara Empire, and basically, you're all sort of struggling for control of different areas, and they're all asymmetric. But the way the game starts is Delhi is in control of the whole map. Like, the whole map is subordinate to Delhi, and the other two are slowly chipping away at Delhi's empire. So, being Delhi, you start at the most points you're going to have in the game, and as the game
being
progresses,
Delhi is sad.
you're losing points. The system itself is the same sort of coin system where you have the action chart where people can do like events on the cards, or they can do commands and decrees, or they can do a limited command but remain eligible for the next card. But if you do one of the major things, you become ineligible for the next card, so you have to wait for your turn. Or you can choose to bide your time and remain eligible and go when it means the most. And of course, the commands and decrees are different for each faction, same as the other coin games. The Delhi experience is very interesting because I played Delhi. So there's four rule books in the game. There's how to play, there's the rules done in like glossary style, like 1.1.2 kind of thing, and easily like referenceable. There's a strategy guide which has like the history and the breakdown of the cards and some strategy stuff, and then there's a solo rule book.
Oh, I was gonna say that there is also a book about the psychological support of the daily player.
You're kind of hitting all my points before I'm even getting to them, but so that's interesting that you say that, because in all these books, at some point there is a warning where it says, Delhi's really hard to play. Just so you understand. So I'm like, okay, I'm playing with Carol, I'm playing with Dima. Dima has never liked sort of being attacked a lot. So I'm like, all right, not Dima.
Who likes to being attacked?
I was like, Carol, like I want him to like this series because I want to play Cuba Libre and stuff with him. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I was like, basically like, okay, I am the one that read the rules. I taught the game. I know the most. Yeah. So I should be Delhi, Let me express to you what the Delhi experience is like. The game is basically broken up into 4 quarters. In the first quarter, which is before the Tughlaq dynasty comes to play.
Sorry, how much time is the game?
We took 3 hours first time.
Okay, so one quarter is like
yeah. I think you could get the game in under 2 hours. Honestly, I think next time we play, we can finish the game in 2 hours or less. So yeah, 30 to 40 minutes or 30 minutes per quarter. Let's say 30 to 40 minutes. So let me express to you the first quarter. The Tughlaq dynasty hasn't come out yet. It's the Khalji dynasty, and they have like an iron fist in terms of control. So your opponents are not able to rebel openly. Now, they can attack you, they can, do stuff like that. But when they attack you, they become rebels, and then you can attack them and you can crush them, right? You're really powerful. And that's where the good news ends. Because basically, by the time the second quarter starts, you flip it over to the Tughlaq dynasty, which is like Muhammad al-Tughlaq, who's the guy who like waged war on the sun because it shone on him while he was changing clothes one day or something. And he raised an army. They went out into the field, and he was trying to, defeat the sun. But the army was so big. This is the story. I don't know if it's true. Obviously, it's probably not. They kicked his army's horses, kicked so much sand into the air and dust into the air that it covered the light. So his generals managed to convince him that his opponent had fled, and then they returned back.
This is so interesting.
So when that guy comes into play, they can start rebelling. And my God, oh my God. So the second quarter is like, oh man, I'm starting to lose some of these territories. Okay. The Mongols are going to invade. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you. So other than the 3, there's 2 Mongol cards in every set of 8. So it's 8 cards, and of those 8, 2 are Mongols. 8 cards, 2 are Mongols. 8 cards, 2 are Mongols, and then 8 cards, 2 are Timurid, invasion of Timur, Tamerlane the Great coming from the north. So, which he eventually sacked Delhi historically. So you're like, oh man, the Mongols, like really, like I can barely like control what's happening in this. Oh my God, these Mongols. Oh wow, I wasn't paying much attention to them. And oh shit, oh my God. All right. So that's kind of how it feels. Just to give you an idea. Then by the time the third quarter comes around, it's like, holy shit, fuck, shit, fuck, no, stop it, no, stop. So you start with 18 points. By the end of the first quarter, I still had 18 points. By the end of the second quarter, I had 14, 15 points. By the end of the third quarter, I had like 6, right? And then on top of that, the way the deck happened to lay out, the last 2 cards of the third quarter were Mongol, right? Attack. And then the first 2 cards of the fourth quarter were Timor attacks from the north. So I had
Yeah.
4 Mongol invasions back to back to back to back. And the game ends after the 4th Mongol invasion, after the 2nd Timor invasion, sorry, which is basically the 8th Mongol invasion of the game. And after that, there were still 6 cards that I didn't get to play. We didn't get to play, but 4 in a row meant I was in no way ready for that invasion from the north. And you can get from that, you can get between 3.
Which is historically correct, I want to say.
Yeah, but you can get between 3 and -3 points. I got -3 points. So just to show you how not ready I was for that. So it was a great game. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting my ass. At the end of the game.
At what quarter did they surpass you in victory
Third.
points?
Third
In the
quarter.
third one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, that was partially my fault. I think, obviously, we didn't know how to play very well, but I think it would be very hard to maintain it through the 4 quarters. But because you can get a bonus if you defend well against Timor, I feel like I would play it a little bit differently. If the cards came out spaced a little bit differently, I would have done better. Anyway, the point is, at the end, I wanted to give you this quote from my friend Carol, who was playing the Bahmani Kingdom. He said, "Good game. Actually, the perfect Elias game. Playing the Delhi Empire looked to be about the same as getting repeatedly hit with a steel chair, mounted on horses." Which, because I'm always saying on the podcast how I enjoy when a game kicks your ass. And no game has kicked my ass more than this one. And let me tell you something. I had a blast. I had one of the best afternoons I've had in gaming for a long time. So let me get my negatives out of the way. It's not balanced. If you're Delhi, it's not gonna go well. It's gonna go poorly until you get good at the game. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And
Maybe I was gonna say maybe it is balanced if you're an experienced player.
Yeah, maybe, but it's not gonna balance for you. Let's just say that. If you're
yeah.
not good at the game, it's not gonna help you, right? Which I was not. So Delhi's rough, but when you have like Mongol, Timor, and then the game ends, it's even more rough. So I didn't like that could happen. Like that seems like a no-win situation, right? And it can feel bad if you're not like my kind of character. Like if you're not okay with the fact that you're going to have a hard time of your afternoon, it can feel bad because you start with the most points you're ever going to have, and it just gets worse. That's your afternoon as
for 4 hours.
Yeah, well, 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
But this is more like criticism of Delhi. The others, they got better. They had a great time. So that's not.
Maybe they felt bad in the beginning, I guess.
Maybe
First,
they kind of
quarter.
felt useless in the beginning. Exactly. The pros are it's very short for a coin game. 3 hours with 3 first timers. Realistically, 2 hours in the future. I think very realistically. And it's an awesome theme, like I said, that's not often explored. The events on the cards feel really significant. Like, not like, oh, the whole game is shifted on its head, but they're worth taking, right? They're worth pouncing on the opportunity if the time is right. And the decisions are super tight, fantastically tight. There's no rinse and repeat. You can't just say every round, I'm going to, amass troops. I'm going to march on a campaign and I'm going to attack. You can't do that. Like, there's no way you can just do that every round. You have to change and be flexible based on the order of events that come out. And it feels like there's 20 things you need to do, but you can only do like 2. So you got to pick the 2 that will lead to the least catastrophic solution. Carol actually,
it's opportunistic, I guess, right?
Yeah, all coin games are really, but this one,
all coin games,
it feels very strong. Carol also said something which I think you might find useful. He said it's kind of what he wished PAX Premier was like. So if that gives you, so there's conflict, yes, but I would say battles between us, there were maybe like 3 the whole game. Like there weren't a ton of like actual battles. It was more like how with PAX Premier, like you take cards and events and actions that sway the situation, but there's more like map control. And I think he enjoyed that. 3 is a great count for a coin game because everyone sort of fights each other somewhat. I think in the beginning, they were just like, let's attack Elias because he has 18 points and we have 0, which is a fair thing to assume.
Yeah.
So you do feel a little targeted, but as the game goes, they start fighting each other too. And you're like, okay, like I don't feel like they're targeting me. And the events give you an excuse to be an asshole or a dick. So like basically you're like, oh, I wouldn't have attacked you, Dima, but this event, how could I not take it? Like it gives me so much. And she's like, yeah, of course. And you're like, yes, I got to attack Dima. It's a high recommend for me. It's some of the most fun I've ever had in a game while losing horrifically. And my initial instinct was like, I don't want to play Delhi next time. But the more I thought about it, I really want to play Delhi next time. But I want to do 2 things. I want to rein in my expectations. I'm not going to win the game. I will try to, but I won't. I would like to try to play Delhi and end up with like 3 more points. That's what I'd like to do.
Oh.
And I think that if I could do that, because I think if you can play Delhi, like it's like being a maestro. It's like controlling everything affects Delhi in some way. You are inevitable in the game, right? You're there, and whatever happens
Which is very
will
interesting,
sway
I guess.
you. Yeah. So, but there's too many things to control. There's rebelling empires and Mongol invasions and your economy, and you're trying to manage everything. And I think I'd love to be good at that. So I'd like to play Delhi again. So, end of story. Really love the game. Really want to play Delhi again. I think I know what I would do differently. I wouldn't fight so hard for less valuable provinces. I would just amass my troops in central locations that I want to keep and just assume it's inevitable that I lose the lower ones, but I'm going to make you bleed to take the more valuable ones. I'm not going to underestimate the Mongols, and I'm going to spend a bit more time sort of managing the locations of my armies and the placement of my governors, because my governors can, if people are still loyal to you, you can get rid of them off the board, and if people are not loyal to you, they're basically army units. But if they're not in a valuable location and you just keep them there, you're kind of wasting one of like 4 or 5 governors you have for the whole game. So I really want to manage that better. I want to manage the Mongols better, and I think what to give up the next time I play in order to sort of, I don't know, maybe I'll do worse. Who knows? But that's where my head's at, and that's all I'm thinking about.
How do you resolve battles in this game?
Great question. So it's a dice system, but it's a clever dice system. So the attacker always rolls 4 dice. The defender always rolls 2 dice. And a hit is anything equal to the number of units you have or lower. So if I have 4 units, I hit on a 4 or lower. If I have 2 units, I hit on a 2 or lower, right?
And those are 6 dice?
Yeah, D6s, right? A 6 is always a miss. A 1 is always a hit. But you can use cavalry, which is a tradable asset in the game. There's 2 things in the game that's tradable. Resources, which is just a vague concept on a track, resources, and cavalry. So you can give people cavalry. And cavalry let you do one of 2 things. Charge your screen. And basically when you charge, you can reduce one of your dice by 1 number. So if, let's say you had 4 units, you rolled a 5, you could drop that 5 to a 4. So it'd become a hit. And screen lets you remove one of your opponent's dice. Anything but a 1. You can never remove a 1. And you can never drop a 6 to a 5. So those are the 2 things, but it's pretty clever. It doesn't feel hopeless, and it feels like as long as you stay in cavalry, like have some cavalry, you'll usually be able to come out okay in combat. That's another thing that I didn't do right. So I always had maximum 2 to 4 cavalry. Like I should have a lot of cavalry. Like I'm getting attacked by the Mongols in the north, guaranteed every quarter of the game. I should have had that. I didn't have that because I didn't spend enough time getting gathering resources. And another thing is that your resources are directly connected to how many provinces you control and their sort of prosperity value. And you get half of that rounded down in resources. But as the game goes by, it's inevitable that you're going to lose provinces. So before I started losing provinces, I maybe gathered income once. And I was like, it's a lot of income. Whenever I need it, I'll do it. But later on, when you're only in control of half the provinces, your income doesn't look very pretty. So I think like, even if you don't need it at the beginning, max out on resources as much as you can because you'll need them later on. Just brilliant. And there's so many things in my head that are itching. I'm like, I want to try this. I want to try that. I want to try this. And that's why Virgin Queen became my favorite game. Because when I left the game, I was like, it's like an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. I don't like the dice rolling. And then all I could think about for a week was like what I would do differently. And then I was like, okay, I love this game. And every time I play it, it's the same. I just keep thinking before and after the game about what I would do. And this one has that. It has that, what I would do differently. I don't know if Bahmani and Vijayanagara have that feeling, but as Delhi, who got his ass kicked, I have that feeling.
So you sound like this will be in your top 3-player games.
3-player probably, yeah.
Could you compare this with Maria and Three Kingdoms Redux, maybe?
I like it more than both. I would rank them straight. I would rank them now: Vijayanagara, Three Kingdoms Redux, Maria. But I think depending on the day, Three Kingdoms Redux could surpass Vijayanagara because Three Kingdoms Redux is more of a Euro resource management, and while there's war, it's not really. Yeah. So if I'm not in the mood to be in someone's face all the time, I would definitely go Three Kingdoms Redux over this one. But if you're in the mood for like a constantly shifting situation, I like this one a lot.
Okay. So the 3-player problem is resolved basically by the victory points. So I guess I'm going to attack the guy with the most victory points. Or is there another mechanism that prevents two people
there's two
allying?
Yeah. There's two things. One is the event cards sometimes give you something that's just too good to turn down, right? And then the other thing is there's three things. The other thing is that the Vijayanagara and Bahmani have a track they're competing on, which not only it's called the Deccan Influence track. It not only gives them points, it also gives them access to more troops, and it gives them access to better actions, getting more cavalry, stuff like that. So you want to be up on them. The only way to really move on that, other than events, is to attack each other or to be in each other's space. So there's that. And then the third thing is there's so many points for Delhi, 18 points to start with. If you let one person run away with points, they have a much better chance of winning. So like, basically as Delhi, what you want is you're going to lose points, but you want both sides to have an equal number of points because that means nobody has 8 or 10 points. They have 4 points. You know what I mean? That's kind of...
If you want to give 10 points, it's better to give 5 and 5.
Exactly. Because you might you'd still have 8, so you'd win 8-5-5. Like, you know what I mean? There's other ways to get points for them. There's temples and forts and the last thing is their influence track, their Deccan influence track. But you can sort of manage that. And if somebody just lets the other one go without attacking them, and Delhi can't hold them off because of the Mongol attacks, you're guaranteeing that person's going to win if you don't do something about it. So like, yes, if you want to win, you have to attack the other person. So, yeah.
So today you were so excited about both games. So
I was. It was a good week. It was a good month of games.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, if it was to play something tomorrow, would you play My Father's Work or Vijayanagara?
Considering they take Vijayanagara shorter. You mean like it's Vijayanagara? Sorry, to make it clear, like I loved my father's
Okay.
work. Very good game. Probably like between 7.75 to 8.5. Vijayanagara is upwards of it's at minimum 8.25, probably like 8.75 out of 10.
All
So,
right.
yeah,
High praise.
indeed.
Okay.
And
So, okay.
speaking of
That
high praise and something that everybody is clamoring for, it's time for the Ippokratic Corner.
Oh, is it something that everybody is waiting for?
No, I was just trying to be polite. Most people tune out at this point.
Okay, so let's wait for some people to get maybe some coffee, make a break after all this exciting news about new games that you can play and maybe acquire in yourself. And go to the Ippokratic Corner, where today are going to discuss the top 5 most played games of mine and Elias's. I'm not really sure why people would care about the games we have played the most, but my idea was that usually it's like party games or fillers that we play during game nights while waiting other players to join, or maybe after playing a heavy game. So it's interesting. What are these games, and which of these games are hitting the table most of the time? So I was really curious, and I'm really curious what is your top 5, and I'm gonna guess we're gonna have some common games in our top 5s. What do you think?
Probably. I think it was very interesting that you said not including online. So that rules out, because we tend to play, like, if not a lot of games, but a lot of the same games online. So like Through the Ages, Tashkalar, stuff like that. Those would be in my top, right? But they're ruled out because on the table I've played Through the Ages less than 10 times, like. So that's kind of I thought it was very interesting. What I did, as you said, I checked my BG Stats app, in which I've recorded over 2,000 plays of about 500 different games. And
2,000 plays.
yeah.
Wow.
And of that, about 20% of that was online, between Board Game Arena, Board Game Core, Tabletop Simulator, and apps on phone, Steam, Android, Epic, etc. So if that gives you an idea of where I'm standing, of what I'm drawing from, that's the pool. So yeah.
Okay, I have 1,500 games. Okay,
What
I'm
a
close.
loser.
Not very close. I was very proud when I passed 1,000.
Yeah,
But,
it's good. It's good for
okay,
you.
anyway.
For you, it's good. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, maybe because I'm playing heavier games.
Oh, yeah, like Blood on the Clock Tower.
Well, it takes a lot of time.
I think we can know who's playing the heavier games based on what we've talked about in the last few.
Yeah, for the last year, yeah, I cannot compare to you.
Maybe when I was there, we
Okay.
played some heavy games. That was nice. So yeah.
Yeah. So some disclosure. My number one game that I have played the most in this
I know.
app
I know what it is.
is Bridge.
I know.
So I don't count this.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I have registered 731 plays because I was kind of a regular bridge player back in Greece. I was playing tournaments twice a week for almost 7 years.
Yeah.
Plus, I
And
was playing
you have
some
to
long
think
tournaments.
he started in like first game was in the Acropolis when it was a banging place. So he's been playing for a long time. 700 plays.
Yeah, and I mean, anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a. Let's go back to hobby games. Let's call them hobby games or something like that. So Bridge is out.
Okay.
And I really wanted to have one honorable mention.
Of course
just
you
because, But you know why? Because number 6 is a game I love,
Okay.
and it's Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
I have 38 plays of Puerto Rico
God damn.
because at some point before we had kids, I was playing it every weekend with Phil, Zach, and Lena.
Mm.
And at some point, we were so fast playing that we could play like, I don't know, like a game in multiple games in the same evening. I don't know, like 4 games.
Wow.
And I really missed that time. But I just wanted to mention that I have played a lot of Puerto Rico in my life.
I also wanted to mention something, and that's because, like you said, the games in the top 5 will tend to be lighter because they get played more. So I wanted to mention the highest kind of like quote unquote full game that I played, not counting online, obviously, is Terra Mystica, which I have 20 plays of.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, I love Terra Mystica. So
20 plays.
Yeah, man. But I just had to mention that one. I love that game.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And what was the ranking of Terra Mystica?
Overall, it was like 9th, something like that.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Probably.
Would you like to go to your number 5?
Yeah, sure thing. So my number 5 comes from the fact that when I was in Qatar with Ipo and everybody, basically for like, I don't know, 6 months, every single week after we'd play whatever, we'd play this game. And that is Werewords. And I have 26 plays of Werewords registered.
Really?
I'm guessing that you have a lot more plays based on the number you said for Puerto Rico coming in 6. But I think in general, we know that you play the same game more often. I tend to play different.
Werewords?
Werewords, yeah.
I don't play.
We played Werewords a bunch, remember? It was...
Maybe I was not registering, maybe.
So Werewords is a game. There's multiple versions of it. There's one called Insider, I think, by Oink Games. And the idea is like it's 20 questions, right? So people have a certain number of questions to narrow down what you are talking about, but it's sort of themed after the whole werewolf thing. And there's I actually can't remember how to play this game. It's been so long, but I remember that for like a good 6 months or so, after every single game night, if not every other one, people were like, Werewords? And then we'd bring out Werewords and play it. I played it at Origins initially, first time in 2017 with Mo and Erica and Dima. And I really enjoyed it. So I bought it, I brought it back, and then we played it a bunch for the 2 years following that. So that's the number 5 most played for me, Werewords.
What I remember is that I didn't like it too much. And
this isn't my favorite. This isn't my favorite games, Ipo. This is my most played game.
I'm just giving feedback to our listeners.
Yeah.
So what I remember is that, it was not my favorite. And I have played it 19 times.
All right. So you were there 19 out of 26 times.
Probably.
Yeah.
So my number 5 game is Codenames. I have 43 plays of Codenames. Codenames is a magically welcoming game because it's always the first game we play in our board game nights while waiting for other people to come. Because it's magical, because it gives the freedom to everyone coming to join the game at any point. And it's really easy, even if they don't know the rules. It's pretty easy for someone to explain while the other players are guessing what is the words that they're trying to point out. Because you go there, you immediately see a bunch of cards having words on them, and somebody's giving you a clue, and he says, okay, you know something? This clue I'm giving you is relatable to 4 words on this table. So it's so easy, and it comes out, and it's really a great game to engage people in.
How many plays of Codenames?
43.
Wow. So Codenames is number 11 for me. It was 25 plays. And Terra Mystica was actually 12th. So that should give you.
Oh.
But it always hits the table. It's a good game. Like there's no, and I think if you combine all the code names together, it would be on this list. So I didn't do that much work, but like if I'd gone and combined code names pictures, code names duet, code names Disney's, like it would probably be on this list.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. Code names was 11th, just generic code names, and yeah, I totally can see that. So makes sense. My number four was a tie, and I didn't know how to break them because, like, you know what I mean? Like,
which one you played last, maybe?
No, I'm just gonna say both of them.
Okay.
So my number 4 was a tie at 28 plays. It's a tie between.
So wait, this is your number 4 and 3.
No, 4 and 4. I don't do that stuff. Technically, if I did that, it would be my 4 and 5. So where words would drop off. Okay. So, but I didn't know who to put at 4 and who to put at 5. You know, so it's a tie. It's between Takenoko and Star Realms.
Really?
At 28 plays apiece, not counting online plays. So Takenoko.
Which one is Star Realms?
I'll tell you all about it.
This is the one with the elastic.
No. No, that's a stupid game. That's Stellar Conflict. No. So Takenoko. Let me talk about them. Takenoko is a game about a panda who's really hungry, and you're building this garden and growing bamboo, and the panda goes and eats, and the gardener. We actually made an amazing story. We created a short story script about Takenoko on Storysmiths, and it's one of my favorite stories we've ever come up with. I adore the story of Takenoko because in my head, it's what we came up with in Storysmiths, which is way better. It's a beautiful human story. But Takenoko is a great game. It's very friendly. It's kind of my go-to for, where people would go to Catan or Ticket to Ride or whatever. I go to Takenoko. So Takenoko is like my gateway game for people. I have the collector's edition, which is why it gets played a lot, which is where everything's like a giant fucking wooden piece. And in case needed, it can double as a toy for babies. I had friends come over last weekend and we just opened up Takenoko and he stacked little bamboo things together and had a great time. So Takenoko Star Realms is a 2-player combat game where it's a deck building game where you're fighting each other. So you have 3 factions, the Federation, the Blob, and the Star Republic. And you're basically you're buying cards from a market and then playing cards out to like build bases, destroy bases. And ultimately you're trying to reduce your opponent's points. I guess they're called something else. I don't know what they're called. You destroy your opponent's points down from 20 to 0 and yours down from 20. So it's that kind of game. And it's excellent. And I haven't played it in a very long time, but when it first came out, Mo were playing it constantly, and then Byron got into it. We were playing it constantly, and it's just one of those you can sit and spend an afternoon playing 4, 5, 6 times, and really enjoy it. It has a great app as well. If I didn't count those, but it has a great app as well. So tied for 4th, Takenoko and Star Realms.
Oh, great! So my number 4. With 44 plays, so it's 444, is a game published in 2000 that came very early in my game group. And I can say it was the code names of the era because we were playing it while waiting others to come and play the main course. And that game is Carcassonne.
Oh, fuck, I was going to say Carcassonne. I just in my head Carcassonne came out in 2000 and it's just like burned in my head and I don't know why. Okay, yeah.
Carcassonne, actually it was the Greek version, and the Greek version's name is the Castles of Mistra, which is an area in southern west Greece where they have a lot of castles. Anyway, I don't know why they changed the name of the game.
You're playing knockoff Carcassonne.
So the game is you are laying down tiles to make a map, combining roads, castles, and villagers, scoring points during the game and in the end of the game. Carcassonne is a game that I wouldn't play to be honest, right now. Um, I mean, if somebody brings it in a game night, I would say, okay, let's pick another from the, I don't know, 30 games that are around us and play that. But it's still, I can see the qualities of the game and how welcoming it is to new players. And I guess I would suggest it to new gamers, right?
Right? Yeah, it's fine. My first Carcassonne is a great game for kids also, and there's so many versions of Carcassonne and expansions. There's always something fun. It's a fun game. It's a great game. My number 3 is also set in Greece, actually. Um,
Oh,
my
in
number
Greece, Attica.
no, what? My number 3 get with 29 plays is Santorini.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so
Really?
I've,
You've played so much Santorini? I
yeah,
didn't
I've
know that.
only played it in real life, and I think the reason it's good is again, it comes with this deck of like different gods and stuff you can use. So you want to try them all because the game's like 15 minutes, and it's it can play more than 2, but it's supposed to be for 2. It's got a toy factor. It's beautiful to look at, but you want to try all the different. Oh, let's try this god. Let's try this god, and
But
yeah.
but were you playing it 2 players or more?
I played it once with more and never again. I played it once with 3
Okay.
and that was it. So 2 players is where it shines. And also it's really good for like, I played it with my nephew a few times. He enjoys it. Like it's a good game for younger people. And it's a good game to play 2 players when, for example, your wife doesn't like when you attack her and stuff. So like Santorini is non-offensive and
Yeah.
nobody gets hurt. So we can play.
Right.
And basically, you're just trying to build up to a 3rd level and get one of your characters standing on that 3rd level. It's kind of an abstract game, even though they try to make it not abstract. But you can cap that 3rd level with a dome, and then nobody can stand on that anymore. And you're just trying to set that up, and it's really cool, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
None of these are my favorite games of anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
Takenoko,
design-wise, it's amazing if you think about
yeah,
it.
it's
Like,
really cool. It's a great
It's
game.
such a good game. Like
Yeah.
it's very simple and yeah, and as you say, engaging, and you can play in 15 minutes. I mean,
Yep.
it's really great.
And with 29
Okay,
plays,
so that was
Santorini.
your number 3.
Yep.
So I said before that we were playing Carcassonne while waiting back in the 2000s to play the main course, and the main course was always this game that I have 49 plays, and it's the Settlers of Catan, which is now, I guess, just Catan. So I have a little story about this because I still remember back in 1999, I went to a board game shop in Salonika where I was studying, and I asked for Civilization because it was a game that I have found in a cafe, and we were playing it like crazy. So I was trying to buy that game. I was in love with Civilization at that time. And the guy in the shop, in the board game shop, replied to me that he doesn't have Civilization right now, but there is this new, very popular game, which is called Settlers of Catan. I was thinking, Settlers? Okay, this reminds me of the video game Settlers. Is anything related to this video game? And the guy said, yes, it's almost the same. And it's, of course, it has nothing to do, right? But I thought to myself, okay, let's give it a try. And from that moment, everyone loved that game. We were playing only that for the next 4 years. I remember people were randomly gathering at my cousin's house, waiting just for the 4th player to appear, or any 4th guy to appear, just to play Catan. And of course, at that time, I still remember that I was always, not always, but I was winning a lot. And my cousins, I remember my cousin always saying to new players that, first rule of Catan is we first attack Ippokratis. So I have very fond memories of this game. I had an excellent time. At some point, we moved to play the Citizen Knights expansion, which was like more strategic, but No, the original, I think it's the best thing you can do.
I think a
And
lot of
that's
our
my number
lists
3.
are derivative of the time that we started playing games. So like when you start playing games early 2000s and stuff, like I know we all played games our whole lives essentially, but like modern hobby board games. It was Catan, it was Carcassonne, it was Puerto Rico, like that's why you played a bunch of those. Whereas for me, like Takinoko, Star Realms, stuff like that, that was kind of early
Very true.
2010s. Yeah, so that might kind of be where that comes from. Um,
Except code names.
yeah, but that one and word words exactly.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
yeah,
has a different story.
and actually, my number two has nothing to do with anything, and it's an incredible game, top notch game. I love this game. You're not even going to know what I'm talking about until I remind you what it is. With a whopping 38 plays, all of them in real life because there is no online version of this game. It is called Brawl by Cheap Ass Games. And
Oh,
Brawl is a game where it's so good. Basically, each of you has a deck, right? There's two fighters. You're going up against each other, and you each get a deck. And I have 6 decks. You can't even get them. I had to get them on eBay, like used. You get them, and then you're like fighting each other by like playing cards really fast onto 3 piles in the center, and you're like taking cards and like swiping them to the end of the table and starting new piles and slamming your hand down. And I think the reason it's up there is because one of the years I was in Qatar, Dima made a birthday surprise for me. It was a surprise where she invited 20 people and then was like, would you like to barbecue for everyone? So I ended up spending the whole day barbecuing for 20 people. But I had a great time. And at the end of the night, we had a brawl contest, right? So we had a little board.
I remember the brawl contest.
Yeah, I think the final was me versus Lena, actually, which I
Yeah.
believe I won handily. But basically, it was like everybody was playing against each other. There was like a whiteboard with like a bracket on there. Everybody was playing. So I think like half the plays probably came from just that night because we played so much Brawl. But I love it. It's so much fun. It's a great game. It's so stupid. It's excellent. I love it. Brawl.
I think I have only played it that night, the night you described.
You
That's
were
the only
very,
time I played that
very,
game.
very poor at it, from what I remember.
I'm
like-
very slow,
No.
so these games are not like helping me yet.
Yeah, it's okay.
distinguish
It's
myself.
not for everybody, but it's stupid and it's fun. And if you're good at it, it doesn't mean like you're amazing at anything. It just means whatever.
It's fine. It was fun. Yes.
It means you drank the least that day or something. So it's just a lot of fun. I would play it at a party. It's raucous. You can bet on people. That's fun. So you can have like odds where people put money on people. I love it. Brawl's a great game. It's like chicken fighting for nerds. What's it cockfighting? It's like cockfighting for nerds. I love it. Brawl's great.
I haven't seen anybody else having that game, by the way.
I don't think anyone does. I'm telling you, there was one copy on eBay and I bought it. And that was it. But I definitely got my money's
End of
worth out
story.
of it. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to my number 2. My number 2 now, I have a kind of disclaimer because we were playing the game live with other people, but at some point we were using our phones. And that game is Spyfall. So I count all 51 plays of Spyfall
Yeah.
because we were actually there, even with using the web page instead of the physical copy.
Definitely counts. It counts for sure. So
Yeah, thank you. So this game was always a great ending to our board game nights. Even actually, my personal favorite was Avalon, but this was also one of the greatest. It's up to 8 players, and we all get a card with the location we are in, except one, the spy. The spy gets a blank card, so he doesn't know where we are. And we all ask each other questions in order to find the the spy, in order to identify who is the spy. The questions, though, cannot be too obvious because the spy is trying to deduce the location, and if she does that, she wins.
Yep.
So in the end of the limit time, we vote who we think is the spy, and that's why the game is Spyfall. So after you left, then I only had one friend with a copy, but at some point there was a website where everybody could just get a card from if you join a game, the app is distributing a card to you so you can play the game with your phone, and that's amazing. But I must say that I think it makes people feel awkward sometimes if they are the actual spy and they don't know what other people are talking about, and it's kind of stressful.
That's the whole
for new
game.
players.
That's the whole game. It's the whole game. If people are feeling stressed about that, I don't know. I can't. You can't. Oh yeah. That's the game. The whole game is for you. If you knew where we were, it wouldn't be much of a game, would it? We would just be talking about the embassy. Like it doesn't make any sense.
But the listeners should know that. So if this is your,
I disagree.
It's not your cup of tea. Maybe
find
it's
better
not
friends.
it's not very relaxing if you don't want to be in that position. Okay. And I blame you for learning and playing so much Spyfall in my life. How did you find Spyfall?
I love Spyfall, but I want to tell you one thing before we continue. I wanted to tell you the one thing I don't like about the app is it just tells you the name of the location or that you're a spy. Whereas in the game, you get a card with artwork on it. So you can always ask a bunch of stuff relating to that artwork, which actually gives some people who don't know what to ask a little bit of something. I don't do that much because I like coming up with like weird ass questions that half the people on the table don't get because they accuse me of being a spy. But I know like Ricardo, he always referred to stuff in the image. That was his go-to. So anyway, my number.
But are you supposed to do that?
You can do whatever you want. So anyway, my number one.
Okay.
With 41.
Sorry, before saying your number, how did Spyfall came to you? How did you get the?
So
did anybody suggest that? Yeah.
My number one with 41 plays is Spyfall. If you just let me say it, I could have told you. With 41 plays is Spyfall. And how did it come to me? I think I saw it on the Dice Tower and then I bought it early years.
Oh.
But Spyfall, it's just great. Everything Ipo said is good. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to go over everything. I'm just going to tell you some stories. The best thing about Spyfall is the different experiences people have with places shows when they're talking about those places. One of my favorite stories to tell is we were at the embassy. And both me and I was not the spy, and neither was my friend Chris, who is Dutch. And that matters for the story. But I asked him, because I was at that point a citizen only of Ghana, not Canada, which means that I had to get a lot of visas in my life. And I spent a lot of time waiting at embassies to get visas and being questioned and being like, it wasn't a pleasant place for me. So I asked Chris, how do you feel when you're at this place? And Chris is like, great, probably a little bit tipsy, and I realized that his only experience with embassies as a privileged Dutch guy was to go to embassy parties. That was his entire experience with embassies. Like they would have King's Day at the embassy, and so you'd go there and get drunk, and my entire experience is waiting in line to be rejected for visas, and like. I just love that because we were both there and I was like, I don't understand. Like, he has to be the spy. There's just no way he has to be the spy. And there's so many stories like that. And we could go on. And one of my favorite things I did once was I made a deck with just spies in it and I gave it out to everybody. So everyone thought they were a spy and nobody was actually anywhere.
Yeah, that was not funny.
It was funny to me.
Except for you.
I had a great night. It was an amazing time because then you make little comments to provoke people. Like somebody will say something and you're like, oh shit, definitely the spy. And then somebody looks at you and they're like, I know, right? Like, you fucking liar.
You should have recorded that session.
I should have. It was so good. It was so good. But yeah, I've been trying to say this whole time. You keep saying, what about you for Spyfall? How many plays do you have? Where did it come to you? I'm telling you, it's my number one. It's my most played game in person. I love Spyfall. I have Spyfall and Spyfall 2, and I mix them together in the one box, and we have a billion places where we could be. And it's the best game. So, not the best game, but the most played game, and still one of my favorite party games. Like, I don't play it much, but I'm always down to, because as opposed to being a word game or like a hidden role game where you're trying to fail missions, you're just having a conversation. And if you're pretty good at bullshitting your way through life, you could probably have a good time, and that's
why.
Yeah.
It creates stories. I can give it that, I think.
It does. One of my favorite, sorry, I think I stole this from someone that I saw online, but it's when you're in the Crusades. I asked, I think I stole from someone, I can't remember, some YouTube video, but I asked, like, do you like your Saladina bowl? Right? And the idea was it's Salahuddin, which in English people say Saladin, so Saladina bowl. And when I asked it, literally everyone was like, who is this moron? And why does he think we're in a restaurant? So everyone just pointed at me. And I was like, huh. I thought I was being slick there. Yeah. So
you were too slick.
Too slick. So Spyfall, my number one most played game.
Okay, so let's go to my number one. I have told many times this story to the podcast, but I need to tell it once more, because this is my number one game. It's the story of how I tried to lure my then girlfriend, Lena, into the board gaming hobby. So I taught her Rainer Knizia's game Lost Cities, which is a push your luck game for 2 players. And at that time, Lena didn't have any clue about modern board games, since I remember she had made clear to me that she doesn't like to lose. So, it was very fresh between us. Like we knew each other like for 2 weeks or something. So I'm teaching her the game. We start playing. And I really try to make her feel she's almost always winning by hair. Mm-hmm. So at some point, the score is something 15-10, because I count scores, of course. And she's winning. And then I decide that now, okay, she's really hooked on the game. So now it's the time to start beating her and see how she reacts. So we play another like 20 games, and the score now is like 30-15. I really cannot beat her. She really destroys me. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? I thought that I was just letting her win. And so at some point, it's coming to the end. I tell her the whole truth. And I say, okay, how the fuck you keep winning this dumb game? Please tell me your strategy. I still remember that. So she starts explaining to me. I didn't really get better, but for all these reasons, I have now like more than... Actually, I didn't make a note of how many exactly, but I have more than 50 games recorded in my board gaming app. And by the way, what's the name? I think we need to mention the board game app, which is...
BG Stats. I did.
What's it? BG Stats. Thank you very much. Yeah. So that was Lost Cities, Rainer Knizia, a very good game.
That's definitely in my top as well. I think it came definitely in the top 20 because Dima and I also used to play that a lot. That one and Targi were like our go-to two-player games.
Oh, I remember Targi, yeah.
Yeah, that one, Targi, and Akrotiri, but Akrotiri took way longer, so it sort of fell off. But Targi is still like one of our favorites if we're just playing two players. So great pick, and I love the romance attached to it. So It works.
I really like that we went so back in time just to remember all these nice things. I really like this top 5.
Yeah, it works, and it clearly worked because Lena loves board games now.
She's just in a break. We're in a break.
For the last 15 years, yeah.
No, for the last, since you left Qatar, I guess.
Okay.
Anyway.
So
okay,
5 years.
Yeah, so sad story. But the listeners should not forget to let us know what their top 5 most played games are over at our Board Game Geek Guild or Instagram or YouTube now. And you can find the link to that in our episode description.
Thanks so much, Ipo. And that brings us to the end of this tabletop session. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram or YouTube at Tabletop Sessions. Join the conversation. Share a fun story of board game shenaniganism. And let us know what your top 5 was this month over at our Board Game Geek Guild or Instagram or YouTube. And you can find the link to all of these in the episode description. We'll be back in a month. And until then, to quote one of my favorite writers, God damn it, you've got to be kind. Say bye.
Playing is the answer. Goodbye, guys.
Wow. That was deep.
That was deep.
You do low voice and that was deep.
I was thinking to make like a Coelho, wallpaper saying that. What do you think? Like
saying what?
Coelho, the author with the
saying what?
Deep quotes, saying playing is the answer.
Don't.
It would work in Facebook.
We're back to Facebook again. How old are you?
Yeah, let's not have this discussion. We don't have a Facebook page, which is a good thing, I guess.
All right, buddy.
When are we going to TikTok, Elias? Our listeners want to know. It's the future, right?